Mail-in ballots are corrupt. Mail-in ballots, you can never have a real democracy with mail-in ballots. And we, as a Republican Party, are going to do everything possible that we get rid of mail-in ballots. We're going to start with an executive order that's being written right now by the best lawyers in the country to end mail-in ballots because they're corrupt.
That's a lot. And for the record, we do have a real democracy. President Trump just experienced that when he won the 2024 election. But you may be wondering, can he do that? Can he just get rid of mail-in ballots simply by signing an executive order? Let's get into it. First of all, this is not new. President Trump has been opposed to mail-in ballots for years. What is new is the timing. This is all coming up today because of President Trump's meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in Alaska last Friday. Trump told Fox News that Putin told him the 2020 election was rigged because we have mail-in voting. Then coincidentally, Trump put out this post about ending mail-in ballots on his social media page this morning. Side note, how does Putin know about the inner workings of our elections and the counting of our ballots? It could be his opinion, but Russia isn't exactly the bastion of free and fair elections, so his opinion on this issue probably should not be swaying the President of the United States. So if it's not his opinion, how else would Putin know that? I thought Russia wasn't involved in our elections. I'll let you decide what you think about that. Regardless, it's a discussion we're going to have on another day because I want to focus on this mail-in ballot issue. Very important before we get into the legalities of what Trump's talking about. I want to make sure you understand that there is no evidence that has been proven in any United States court of law, certainly since candidate Donald Trump entered the national political scene 10 years ago, that backs up his claim that mail-in ballots are simply corrupt. Hear me clearly on this. I am not talking about how you feel about mail-in ballots. You may feel like they are corrupt, but I don't report on your feelings. I am simply here to state the facts that there is no evidence that has been proven credible in any court of law in the United States that there is widespread corruption in U.S. elections because of mail-in ballots. It just doesn't exist. And we have been using mail-in ballots in the United States in some form since the 17th century. Okay, so let's talk about the legality of what Trump wants to do. Well, we got to start with the Constitution of the United States. In Article 1, Section 4, it clearly says, the times, places, and manner of holding elections for senators and representatives shall be prescribed in each state by the legislature thereof. That means the state law primarily determines how federal elections are conducted. States get to run elections in the way they see fit, including elections for U.S. House of Representatives and U.S. Senators. That's why we have different rules in every state for federal elections, including early voting rules, rules about how and when votes can be counted, and even rules about which votes cannot be counted. But there's another sentence in the Constitution immediately after that one. It says, but the Congress may at any time by law make or alter such regulations except as to the places of choosing senators. Now, this part of the Constitution allows the United States House and Senate to pass federal laws that make or alter state election laws. The framers of the Constitution put that part in there to protect against rogue states that may choose just not to hold elections for Congress. Basically, it's a backstop to ensure we get an election for president and Congress every 4 years and a midterm in between. This second sentence in the Constitution is how we got federal election laws, like the Voting Rights Act in 1965, the National Voter Registration Act in 1993, and the Help America Vote Act in 2002. So yes, the federal government can implement some laws that standardize federal elections in all of the states, but we don't see it happen very often. Now, let's talk about how mail-in ballots fit into this equation. Well, you need to understand there's a difference between absentee ballots and mail-in ballots, though the two can sometimes be interchangeable. Technically, they are two different things, but it gets confusing because absentee ballots can also be mailed in to be counted. So in this case, it's unclear if the president is talking about getting rid of absentee ballots too when he's talking about getting rid of mail-in ballots. The fact is, we are going to have to see exactly what this new executive order says and what authority Trump is going to try and use. Generally, though, the president does not have the power to just simply get rid of mail-in ballots in every single state all by himself through an executive order. And if he tried, he would likely be stopped in the courts immediately. Instead, if he wanted mail-in ballots gone, the president would have to get Congress to pass a new law. But that would be difficult given the current makeup of the House and the Senate, because even if all of the Republicans in the House voted yes, and all of the Republicans in the Senate voted yes, Trump would still need 7 Democrats in the Senate to also vote yes to get this bill past the filibuster. And that's not going to happen. So what's Trump's other option? Well, he may try to use his executive order to withhold federal election dollars to states that have any sort of mail-in voting that Trump opposes, as a way of trying to force them to change their mail-in voting laws. But that, too, if it happens, would obviously be challenged in the courts because of the Constitution, which says states get to conduct their elections in the way they see fit. For the record, lots of states, including red states and swing states, allow statewide mail-in voting or no-excuse absentee voting. People in those states like to have that option, and they have been voting that way for decades, successfully, long before President Trump came into office.